The civil rights movement was a mass, popular movement to secure for African Americans equal access to opportunities for the basic privileges and rights of U.S. citizenship. Although the roots of the movement go back to the 19th century, it peaked in the 1950s and 1960s. African American men and women along with whites organized and led the movement at the national and local levels. They pursued their goals through legal means, negotiations, and petitions. The Civil Rights Movement was the largest social movement of the 20th century in the United States, has influenced the modern women's rights movement and the student movement of the 1960s. The Civil Rights Movement centered on the American South. That was where the African American population was concentrated and were racially seeking for equality due to the racial inequality in education, economic opportunity, and the political and legal processes was most blatant. Beginning in the late 19th century, state and local governments passed segregation laws, known as Jim Crow laws. They also imposed restrictions on voting qualifications that left the black population economically and politically powerless. The movement therefore addressed primarily three areas of discrimination. One was education, second was social segregation, and third was voting rights. So gangster rap as a vote against police brutality was a big thing that actually supported equality and wanted to get rid of inequality. Protest songs during the Civil Rights Movement was a big way for the African Americans to express themselves, to express their dependence on their race, to express that they want independence and that their opportunities and their freedom is dependent on the people, on the police who use violence against them, who treat them unequally. Like Los Angeles riots. It was one of the gangster rap foretold them and grew after them. In 1985, Los Angeles rapper 23 released what could be considered West Coast hip hop's opening against police brutality in black neighborhoods. The track went on to become a protest anthem in minority neighborhoods around the city where the device was often deployed against homes that were later proved drug-free. The LA riots of 1992 arrived with its soundtrack in place, sanctioned police brutality, a grim job market, gang life, a disseminated school system. Department officers were documented on tape. Everyone before the riots' voices, hip-hop were foretelling what was to come. The riots gave marginalized music from the hood a global stage and a sudden mainstream legitimacy. Using another big event that happened, music and the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s was another big thing, another big event. In this few sides of sounds, the passionate purposefulness of the Southern civil rights movement, as powerfully as the freedom songs that were provided, were used for African Americans to convey their message, to show that they were treated unfairly, that the violence is unreasonable, injustice, and African Americans are the victims, are victimized due to their race. Primarily, freedom singers performed during a march in support of the civil rights movement in Harlem in New York, March 1965. There were many protest songs sung by different various activists and protest singers, such as Odetta, who sang "Oh Freedom," "Strange Fruit," and "Change Will Come." And now we see gangster rap songs, who are performed by different artists, like Deborah's Got a Baby. All these different songs are like keys for like a target against the police brutality to show that they are using their opportunities to put themselves higher than black African Americans, to treat them lower, to treat them unequally. And African Americans are trying to seek help from the audience, from the people, through their music and their songs.
This will be the day when all of God's children be able to sing with new meaning.
Therefore, it has influence. The songs has really shown that police brutality is unfair and unreasonable threat to African Americans. So have the police brutality influenced gangster rap and protest songs during the civil rights movement? It actually created a bigger group of people, bigger group of not only black African Americans but white people to actually support them, to actually send their message through songs. This is the only way they could express themselves and raise awareness. African Americans were treated unfairly as they protested against inequality, demanding equality during the civil rights movement.